frustrating when you go to the doctor and they just say, well, you're just getting older. That's why you're tired. So let's talk a little bit about like cleaning up your diet. I would say about 99.9% of the women that come in to me to do the detox and to do the cleaning up are eating higher carbohydrate diets. And even if they are well-meaning, I'll give you an example of well-meaning. Waking up in the morning and having a cup of coffee with just that little splash of vanilla cream or just a little, and saying, well, it's only my 1 cup of coffee. Sitting down to breakfast to some high quality whole grain oats with maybe some fresh fruit and a little bit of honey on the oats. Maybe snacking on a handful or 2 of almonds or cashews, or maybe having an avocado, maybe having a peach or an apple or a banana throughout the day. Having a nice salad, and maybe putting a little bit of feta cheese on there or Parmesan, and leftover protein from the night before, and a little bit of a light or low-cal salad dressing. Moving on into the afternoon, maybe snacking on some dark chocolate or another piece of fruit. And then dinner, just really having some grilled animal protein or fish and some vegetables. Most of the clients that I get are, because they're typically over 45 years old, they know that going to Jack in a Box isn't working for them. They know that the caramel macchiato at Starbucks is not good for them. They understand that they can't have 3 glasses of wine a night, and they're saying no to the birthday cake, and they're saying no to French fries, and they're getting things protein style without buns, and they're still not losing weight, and they're still not feeling it. They're not feeling like themselves, and this is the problem. They're creeping up into prediabetes. One of my newer clients, that was the tipping point for her. She had a female surgery, and then it set the hormones off in her body like crazy. She gained a bunch of weight, and she felt like she wasn't really doing anything different with her eating. It wasn't like she was eating like a 17-year-old. And then all of a sudden her cholesterol's off the chart, and there's sugar in her blood, and it's a scary deal. We have a new term for Alzheimer's, and a lot of doctors are now referring to Alzheimer's as type 3 diabetes, because there is a correlation. And the dementia is getting to be a younger and younger problem. We're seeing people now in their 20s and 30s with early signs of dementia. And I will be doing at a later date a podcast specifically talking about dementia and what to do if you or your loved one or friend is showing signs, and also some things that you can do if you aren't, and how to avoid that. What's going to happen to our country if everybody over 50 is needing to be in a care facility? I don't know. And I just heard on the radio that, prescription medications are getting more and more expensive. And that is actually a topic that comes right alongside jobs and how much we're getting paid, and where are the jobs, and how much is our medication. I want to be in a position, like I am right now, I don't really give a crap how much prescription medication is, because I don't need it. Because our bodies are actually designed to be self-healing. Now, those prescription medications, sure, are absolutely necessary, as are our acute medical professionals and procedures. But I feel like, and I know you do too, and that's why you're listening to this podcast, that we need to put the onus back on ourselves, and we need to make some changes. Some of those changes that I want to talk to you about today is your standard American diet, SAD, is typically still going off of today's food pyramid. It is rather high carb. And I don't know if you notice, I don't get an opportunity or desire, I don't have a desire to watch much television. But when I do, I am appalled at how many prescription commercials there are. And I tell you what, the commercials about diabetes and the commercials about heart disease, they're all drug ads. Drug ads. So here I am, a little tiny voice in this vast sea of advertisements that they almost sound educational. It makes me crazy. And they sound like they're the answer. They're not an answer, they're a Band-Aid. A Band-Aid doesn't stop you from bleeding, right? So let's talk about that, the higher carbohydrates. You got to cut down the carbs, guys. And I do see this a lot in Facebook land. I see a lot of people are adapting more of a ketogenic or low carb, high fat, moderate protein kind of diet. And that is like absolutely wonderful. I myself flex in and out of a ketogenic diet. And that's what I want to talk to you a little bit about. Before I move into that, let's talk about the standard American diet. And if you feel, or if you want to just kind of maybe evaluate how you feel throughout the day, if you're a carb burner, if you're a sugar burner kind of person, typically you're needing to eat about every 2 to 3 hours. You're going to wake up hungry in the morning, and you're going to crave sugary or carby foods, for like that sandwich or that bowl of oatmeal or even that piece of cake. You're going to have more sugar cravings. And the hangry is a real thing. And really, when your blood pressure, not your blood pressure, when your blood sugar drops, when your body has burnt the sugar, because you're a sugar burner, that's your body's preferred fuel source, then it's going to leave you feeling hungry, tired, sometimes a little sweaty, sometimes you kind of can't think right. I grew up being hypoglycemic, and we called it feeling weird. We needed to get something quick in our body, a little splash of orange juice, and eventually maybe something like peanut butter. My mom would carry stuff around in her purse, and I did for a lot of my adult life. So I'm no longer a sugar burner. The alternative to that is being what is called fat adapted, meaning that your body's preferred fuel source is fat. And if it can't find it in your diet, something that you have eaten in the last few hours, it's going to find it on your body in your stored fat, which is kind of great. I mean, we've talked a lot about being a fat burner over the years and increasing your metabolism, but you can't increase the metabolism much if you're a carb burner. Let's say you are. And a lot of athletes are. They do carb loading. I got a big race tomorrow. That people are eating big amounts of spaghetti and everything, to get the glycogen or the stored sugar or energy in their muscles ready and available for them. Well, we have been finding out now in the last 20 years that these high-level athletes, and I'm talking like Olympic athletes, they are going from being these wonderful machines that can do incredible feats of strength and endurance, and they're going into diabetes. And it's like, wait a minute, what is going on? And it is this high carb diet. Eventually, your body won't store it in your fat stores anymore. It will store that sugar. It'll just be loose in your blood. And no bueno. So when you do your blood glucose or your blood sugar testing, of course you're testing your blood fasting, which is what a lot of doctors do, is they have you come in fasted and test your blood sugar. But you also need to test it after you eat, an hour after you eat, and 2 hours after you eat, to get a real good picture. And also I recommend, if you have blood sugar issues, to write down what kinds of food you ate that maybe kept your blood sugar more steady, or maybe made a big spike and a big dip. So this is talking now about customization. All of my students follow their own protocol, and the protocol changes season by season. How they're doing sometimes the stress in their lives. And then, of course, I have a lot of clients eventually get off medication, which is the goal here. No longer taking cholesterol medication or blood pressure medication or even insulin, which is really, really exciting. So what if you are carb dependent and you're like, this is just the way I live, and this is just, I'm not interested in changing, or I don't know how to change, or I just can never stick to change? I'll tell you what you need to do. You need to become a cardio bunny. You need to work. You take 180 and you deduct your age, and that's going to give you a heart rate. You're going to need to hit the trail or the elliptical or the Taibo class or whatever it is for you, but you're going to need to burn that sugar off. And I got to tell you, the older you get, the harder and harder it is to work at those very high cardio classes. The alternative would be to do something like keto, where your carbohydrates, I'm talking anything from a sweet potato to a plum to pasta to whatever it is, honey, those all break down into sugar. A carb is a carb. It doesn't matter if it is a Twinkie or if it is a peach picked off of your tree. Personally, I don't play games as far as net carbs. For those of you that are a little bit in the know, a net carb would be taking the carbohydrates, let's say it was a plum, it's 38 grams of carbohydrates, deducting the fiber, and that is your net carbs. Okay, I have no business or interest in doing any of that. Yes, it is awesome that there is fiber in that plum or that peach that you're eating. But I don't want to walk around with a calculator all day long and try and hit certain macronutrients, which is your fat, your proteins, and your carbohydrates. I am not a completely regimented to the gram kind of eater. I do believe in food journaling. I do believe that you need to pay attention to your food. And I would say most of my clients probably fall anywhere from 60 to 80, sometimes 100 grams of carbohydrates a day. And protein, same, 40, 60, 80 grams of protein a day. And we're just really not even going to discuss fat. But I'll tell you what, about 70% of their diet and my diet are healthy fats. So that fat helps me regulate my blood sugar. It helps me think. It keeps my inflammation levels low, which means my arthritis feels better. It means my body just works better. And I don't have that high and low. And I also can go hours and hours and hours without eating. I mean, I can eat dinner. We usually eat fairly early, around 5:30 or 6. I could literally, if I had to, I could go till lunch the next day, maybe even longer, and I could even work out. And sure, I want to eat, but I don't have to. I don't have any of those symptoms of, like, I wouldn't be thinking about food every second. I wouldn't be weak. I wouldn't have a headache. I wouldn't be lethargic or, losing my mind. I just can't think. I need something to eat because I have been fat adapted. Fat has become my body's choice for fuel, the number one choice for fuel. So let's talk a little bit about how do you get fat adapted. Well, I tell you how you don't do it. You don't get out your keto app and just plunge straight ahead into it. I'm sure most of you have heard about the keto flu. Dude, it's a real thing. Going too hard and too fast is a pitfall that a lot of men and women fall into. And for women, we just have too much going on over 40 to add keto flu on top of it. It is unnecessary for one, and it makes you feel like crap for two. And you're really not going to get this freedom and awesome feeling that a lot of us feel because you've jacked yourself up. So let's talk a little bit about those macros. To be officially on a ketogenic diet, I'm just going to go with general parameters because everybody has their little rules. There's no hardcore line for it, but you're probably eating anywhere from 0 to 20, some say 30 grams of total carbohydrates a day. And that's pretty low. That's pretty low. I'm not saying there aren't days that I don't go that low, but it's more of an intuitive feel. Maybe I'm just not as hungry. Maybe that day I only had one meal. So I just didn't get it in. I believe in being a little bit more flexible. And I don't want to walk around with a calculator like I mentioned. And I do believe in seasonal eating. So when the plums were coming off of my plum tree, I was having a